Uri and Yoav, I'm so excited to have you today on Agentic Platformers. I want to hear more about Tribal. You are in the world of code generation, business generation. This is the time for you to actually come to market. But there is a backstory to your adventure. I'm wondering if you want to tell me a little bit more about what brought you to create your business and look at the Salesforce platform and the Agentforce platform to build it.
Yeah, great to be here, Antoine. Actually, our story with the Salesforce ecosystem started over 10 years ago when Uri and I worked together at a company called ClickSoftware, which was the leader in field service management back then. And I remember Uri coming to my office one day and saying, like, there's this amazing platform called Salesforce. They know how to do the cloud thing. Back in the days, everyone wanted to do like proper cloud apps and so on. And we kind of started together to really play with the platform, and I managed a small team of solution engineers back then. And long story short, we've shipped our first little app on the App Exchange over 10 years ago. It was called Shift Expert, and it was about shift management, and it went pretty well. And again, long story short, we established a very large group within ClickSoftware that built apps on the App Exchange. So we were partners of Salesforce, and this became OEM partnership with Salesforce. And later, after the ClickSoftware acquisition, this really became the Salesforce Field Service product that is here until today. So that's a little bit about my background, and maybe Uri can add a little bit more detail.
That was the story of the cloud era. Now that we're moving into a new era, the agentic era, there's something new coming up. Right?
Exactly, that's the story. And so Yoav and I found an amazing market to really enable these heavy applications to make them much easier to implement and much faster. And today in the AI world, it's going to be 10x faster. So I lead the product at Tribal and take it to the next level in terms of what you can do with the Salesforce platform today.
And so now, may I ask you, you've seen what it is to be a developer, to be a business starter, and you have a perspective that is really interesting because you've done it for the past decade. And there's a shift that to me seems like it happened in the past year or two. How does it feel for you? How is the work and the scope of the builder, of the developer changing with the innovations that we had coming up in the past couple of years?
Yeah, great question. I think that the idea to establish Tribal really started in one particular meeting. I mean, we had tons of similar meetings, but I really remember fondly one of the meetings with the CIO of a very big company sitting with his team next to the business folks. They've asked to change something in a wizard the call center reps use inside Salesforce, and the team estimated this change in like 6 months. And I remember the faces of the business folks over there, like 6 months, are you serious? And eventually it really took this time. And even then, they had lots of side effects and so on, and all sorts of unexpected consequences. And really, that really was the moment that we said, okay, something needs to change. And these days when there's AI, the AI power in everything, it's really a necessity to have a tool that will kind of help the developers and the admins and even the business analysts and the architects in the Salesforce team to become way more efficient and to really move faster in the pace of business. So I think that's really like the transformation that we see, right? Everyone are seeing it like all over the place, where the more like mundane and repetitive tasks are becoming, trivial. But the roles are actually changed. The developer are becoming a little bit more like the architects, and the architects are becoming a little bit more like the business analysts, or the ones who are talking more with the business. So I think that everyone are kind of shifting left, so to speak, in their kind of way of work.
Yeah, the scopes are like blending a little bit together. Now that you think of this project that was scoped for 6 months, nowadays, how long would you give it for this type of change?
So we see actually a few of our early customers that are already shipping 10 times faster. So it's really 10 times. And it's not really just about writing code faster. In enterprise, it's much more complex and kind of thorough than that. It's really aligning all the stakeholders in the organization. So the business, the IT folks, the technical folks, everyone needs to be on the same page. This is usually what took very long time. And that's why, in Tribal, there's a really strong focus on this element in the project. But then writing the code or the metadata and then testing it, which is another thing that really takes ages. And with the help of AI, with the help of Tribal, we managed to really accelerate that part as well. So it's the before and after the code is generated. This is what Tribal really brings to the table in terms of like real acceleration.
I'll add to that. Imagine that you have a Salesforce org that is supporting 20 countries, and each country is doing it a little bit different. And for 20 years, each country was using their own SI and creating their own processes and creating some custom fields on all these objects, some custom objects. And suddenly you want to align everybody on a new process, a new way to sell, a new way to forecast sales. That's a very difficult project. Like Yoav said, 20%, 30% coding. Okay, that's hard enough. But what about aligning the business on the requirements, documenting everything, architecting it correctly, using the objects where the data is? And Salesforce, for example, comes out with new innovations, new Agentforce, for example. How do you add that to a project like this, right? And so preparing for that, then doing the coding. But I think the key to success is to show the business that you are now moving so fast. So when they give you feedback, not 6 months later, they see the UI and the results, but the day, 2 days later, they see, oh, okay, so here's my feedback. It's already in sandbox. I can test it with real data. And then the cycles become so much faster. You get to the point of UAT and you get to the point of doing the real testing with real, that's the difference between doing a demo and then going full out to production. And that's, I think, the big change we see.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is that you have a big difference between having, you said 20 teams, like doing 20 times the same thing and ended up with like 20 goals achieved in a slightly different way and doing it more the enterprise fashion where like you do empower everyone to go faster, but to follow a common ground and have reusable assets.
Exactly.
That totally makes sense. And it's a perfect transition for the question that I had coming right after. We have the term vibe coding that is really trendy in the world of development right now and in the world of building business. Vibe coding, is it something that you embrace or is it something that makes you cringe?
I love vibe coding. I'll let you have answer first.
I love vibe coding as well. That's the bottom line. I think that it's a real thing. We use it also internally with our developers. But there's a big difference between vibe coding for your own passion project. So if you're a small company, that's a great asset compared to vibe coding in the enterprise. And that's a huge difference. As I said earlier, spitting out code and doing it fast, that becomes like trivial, right? There are so many great tools to do it. But the real question is how do you make sure that the code is in enterprise grade quality? How do you make sure that you do not break anything? Because when you say vibe and enterprise, these two words are kind of colliding with each other, right? You can do lots and lots of damage if you just vibe your way in the enterprise without kind of understanding the landscape and the context that you live in.
The only thing I would add is I think vibe coding gives a lot of less technical or non-technical folks superpowers that they didn't have. And it's very easy to fall in love with this. And when you do your own project or your own custom website or demo, beautiful. In the enterprise, you have to have a layer that protects you from making these mistakes. And if you have 20 years of tech debt in your Salesforce org, you cannot vibe code directly into production. Just not possible. But you would love to do that. And I think one of our missions and goals is to provide that confidence and trust and structure so that the vibe coders of the future can feel comfortable and confident. And the Salesforce admin in the next year or two will suddenly have the confidence that, yeah, I can make these changes.
That brings me to another question. So tell me if I simplify too much the Tribal platform, but you do have agentic capabilities to turn ideas into enterprise apps running on the Agentforce platform. The Agentforce platform is by default already filled with security layers, metadata, a pretty large context. How do you tackle that part when it comes to helping your capabilities feed from what's already existing in the Agentforce platform?
I love this question. And I think we can also mention what we read in the news about the SaaS apocalypse. I think it's not exactly accurate because of what you said. Because if you already have all the permissions, all the data, everything structured for a large enterprise organization, you're not going to drop all of that and go vibe code your own CRM with vibe coding tools. That's not going to happen, not to the biggest enterprises that are using today. Exactly to your point, you have to have the right context and ongoing, not just once, but ongoing, be plugged into the context of all the metadata that you have in the org, all the agents that are running in the org to be successful. But that's just the base, the starting point.
Yeah, I completely agree with Uri. I think that the context, what we call it, the metadata fabric layer. So we kind of ingest all the metadata, whether it's like custom code, XML, whatever, everything that you haven't really documented 15 years ago. We ingest all that, and that gives context to everything that Tribal builds for you. And that's a crucial part, because it's never a greenfield project when it comes to Salesforce development. There's always the tech that you've inherited from your peers and downstream effects on the integrations and everything. So this metadata fabric is the secret sauce that we bring to the table with everything that we do.
So here I'll be poking the bear. When you have a customer or prospect that comes and say, hey, I'm good. I already have Claude Code. I have Cursor. Why would I need Tribal?
That question. So first of all, I would say these tools are amazing, right? We all use them. We all love them. But it starts earlier in the enterprise. When the business come and ask you to do something, usually you don't want to just go ahead and ship to production in 1 minute. You need to make sure that it makes sense. You need to make sure that what was asked is actually realistic in the context of your environment and so on. So that's a crucial element that the Tribal gives you, to put everyone on the same canvas, collaborate, align the stakeholders and so on, and come up with a really concrete plan on what needs to be built that will later be accepted by the business. Then there's the part of the vibe coding itself, or the code generation itself. And I agree, you can use many other tools. Agentforce Vibes is amazing, example of a tool that can do it. So we love it. And I think that's a great part of the process. But then after the code or metadata is shipped, again, you need to test it. You need to run unit tests, but also user acceptance tests and end-to-end tests. Generates maybe some mock data in order to visualize it to the business quickly and get feedback. And so many things that you need to take care of, and then deploy it. Everything that you need to take care of in order to really take this idea to production.
I'll add maybe one thing. I think that shipping a great app to production is a team sport. It takes a tribe to ship something amazing. And I think those tools that you mentioned are amazing tools, typically used by one person who's a developer, feels comfortable with those tools. Many of the people that I work with, business analysts, admins, do not yet feel comfortable with those tools. And they definitely need to feel as part of a team. You need to align the business and the tech, not just code away, but that happens on a platform, and document everything and architect everything. And then the architect comes in and says, yes, I approve this architecture. That's the future of where we're going. Then you do the coding, and you can use these platforms together with Tribal. So one of the amazing things is the code is not a black box. You can pull it out and use your favorite Agentforce Vibes, but then you import it back. Why? Because you want it documented. You want all the tests to run. Then you want to push to full. You want to do the unit tests. You want to see the impact analysis. Before you promote to production, all of this needs to happen on the platform where you have all these humans and agents together. So I think that's the key.
Understood. And now that we have at TDX a lot of improvement coming to be added to Agentforce Vibes. I'd be really curious to hear your perspective, especially about Agentforce Vibe, how Agentforce Vibes and Tribal can work together. You mentioned process. In which part of the process is it appropriate to use each?
What we see our first users, the initial users that are using Tribal with Vibes, is especially doing the requirements gathering in Tribal, even setting the architecture. So because the metadata layer is plugged into your Salesforce org all the time, the architect agent is very good to say, I understand the requirements. Here is what you should use. You should use this existing flow. You should use this existing custom object. Why? All the data is there. We have customers that have 5 invoice objects, but only one is really used in production. And if you don't use that one, you're not going to see all the... So I think the architect agent brings also Salesforce best practices for people who are less technical. For example, I need a permission set here, so it will offer it for you. It will know when to use the flow versus Apex, LWC versus a standard layout. I think all of that know-how, best practices, Yoav and I have been in the Salesforce ecosystem for a long time to know there's a lot of data out there. I don't think it's organized very well for LLMs. You need professionals from the Salesforce ecosystem. So they will get better LLMs, but I think you must have kind of a best practice place. And also each customer likes to do it a little bit different. So that part happens in Tribal. The build stage then can happen in Tribal or it can happen in Agentforce Vibes with the best practices that are baked in there with more, I would say, a developer-friendly tool to do diffs between versions and things that non-technical folks don't like to do so much, like read the code and review the code and see that that's working. And then there's a question of testing. And once there's a first version, how quickly you can test and iterate it really inside Salesforce. So there again, I would say import back into Tribal and then do the testing, document, produce release notes, and quick iterations.
Awesome. Now focusing on the dev persona, there's so much that changed again in the past few years. How do you feel like the skill set that are required and important changed? What should a developer focus on right now when they want to upskill themselves?
Yeah, I think I'll give an answer which I think is relevant not only for the Salesforce ecosystem, but devs in general. There's this prophets that say no one will need the devs anymore, and the others say actually we'll need twice the times of devs. And I think my perspective is that we'll definitely need lots and lots of dev and technical people, but definitely their focus will and should change. They'll need to be way more looking at the bigger picture, be able to kind of talk to the business, understand the overall picture. I'm always laughing with Uri that, Uri, our head of product, started to vibe code and add some features to our platform. And I always say to the developers, hey, but it also works the other way, right? You guys need to be like more PM in your way of thinking and not just like do what you've been told to do. So that's, I think, relevant for developers throughout the world and also in the Salesforce ecosystem. Developers need to be more of a PM in the way that they think. And I think this brings huge benefits for these folks that are able to do this transformation because they really become the ones that hold the harness of the AI agents and stay very much relevant to everything that the business needs.
Maybe one small thing that I think is happening to all of us, not just the devs, is the ability to switch context. So you have 6 agents running and you need to remember, and it's happening to devs big time, but also to me and to customer success. When you're entering a project, quickly understand the context. Where did I leave off? What's the next step? Go and then continue to, and maybe the next generation will be very good at this because their kind of attention span is super short. So I'm kind of hoping somebody gives them the context and go, and they might be very good at this new world of orchestrating agents and coming in with context. But for devs, I think it's happening kind of on a deeper level than everybody else.
Well, thank you. I think I share a lot of what you were saying on the need to focus on the new set of skills, right? Now, with your experience that you have at Tribal and also with your previous one, I'd love to hear how it's helpful for a business to build on the Agentforce platform as an ISV partner or an OEM partner, especially comparing to starting a business from scratch. What's helpful? What could we improve? What's your take on that?
Yeah, again, going 10 years back, I think Uri and I felt it very, very vividly. The power of shipping things as a Salesforce partner. So it's not only the technical platform, and which is amazing, and all the good stuff that you get, but also the how you get access to amazing customers that are already using the platform and trusting it. And suddenly you can come with your best practices and really focus on the things that you do best and really rely on the strong foundations that are out there in the platform, but again, also in the ecosystem. So as a partner, you get great support to actually take your business forward. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the real benefit of becoming a Salesforce partner. That was, our passion back then, and I think it's true until today. As a small startup or as even, a team within a larger enterprise that wants to actually make a change. So I think that's a great, that's what, I love about the Salesforce partner team.
Yeah, 100% agree. Maybe just add that I think the ease to get started and build what you want for a real world problem and focus on that and not focus on security, database, everything that Yoav mentioned, and the ecosystem and customers that are already using is really kind of, I think, one of the best places to bring your idea to life and build a business today more than ever. Back in the cloud days, it was true. Today, I think it's kind of 10x more.
So you have your first customers that are right there, available for you to reach them and then for them to discover your application and spread the word and power your business. Is this what I'm hearing? That when you look at Salesforce, it's also for the existing distribution pipeline that you get access to as an ISV or OEM partner?
100% existing customers, especially I would say for us, the ones that have been in the ecosystem for a couple of years and already have a significant investment in Salesforce and are looking to really take it to the next level. Agentforce Agents is a great example, but everything that's happening with Slack is another great example. Okay, so CIOs, how did they become the champion of the organization? They're able to show that they can move fast with existing systems. Anybody can bring in a new system and build demos, but that doesn't make you the champion. The champion is somebody who can move mountains that have been there for 20 years with existing critical systems for the organization. And with platforms like Tribal, this is their moment to shine. So they can become the champions. And for us, it's the amazing place to find the Salesforce customers that are looking to be the innovators of the future and align all the mission critical systems, but not do it in 2 years project. Show it the results in like a month or two. And I think that's the difference.
And I'm jumping on the innovator of the future or of the future. We mentioned prophecy earlier, like now looking at Salesforce and Agentforce in 3 years. What's your prophecy? Where do you see the Agentforce platform in 3 years?
Wow. Okay. So I am hoping we learn a little bit about that this week at TDX. Definitely, we both, I think, feel the move from a Salesforce heavy UI to more of a chat experience in all the platforms. And in Salesforce, I think this will
Slack.
This will come alive in Slack. And so the ability to control all of your data and all of your agents from Slack, I think will manifest itself this year for sure. And I think if you ask 2 or 3 years, the pace is moving so fast, it's really hard to predict anything. Yeah. But I have a feeling it'll have to do with cross platforms, cross systems. So the agent that now works only in Salesforce is covering multiple mission critical systems that you already have. And it's able to see the data and also the metadata across those systems. And that's it's very easy to say, very hard thing to do accurately in production.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think that the pace of change will surely change dramatically and everything will accelerate. And what used to be a 1-year project, the expectations will be that it'll take 1 month or 1 week. And the same, 1 week will, be expected to be completed in 1 hour. So I think that's the vision that we push towards. And that's what we enable our customers to do. So in 3 years' time, when people will, go into a Salesforce implementation, it will take them a fraction of the time that it takes them today, but still with the highest quality. And I think that also we touched a little bit earlier, the personas will be a little bit different. I see more of the business people that will be able to actually articulate their ideas in plain English and really take it to an agent live in production. And that's our vision, again, to enable this transformation.
I'm excited to get your feedback post TDX to see how this is actually materializing faster than we would expect. Now, thinking about the builders that are tuning into the show, what would be the one takeaway that you would share with someone who is thinking about starting their business, their agentic business on the Agentforce platform, and maybe are hesitating between building it from scratch on an AWS or turning to a platform like Agentforce? What would you tell them that could help making this decision?
So I think that the Agentforce platform brings lots of the abstraction layer is much higher than the ones that they'll need to handle in AWS or other more kind of downstream platforms. So I think that's one crucial decision point that they need to make: how technical they want to be in the way that they kind of manage and deploy the agents. Also, shipping the first version of the agent is not easy, but it's easier than actually making it work for continuously at the highest quality. So that's another thing that they need to take into account, not to fall into like quick demos that look nice and work for a week, but ones that are actually coming with a testing center, like the Agentforce platform has, that really helps them to maintain the quality. So these are like the things that I would recommend them to consider.
So not just an MVP, but the full testing pipeline.
I would add channels. I think agents, we're all kind of chatting with agents all the time, but I think Agentforce platform has not just chat. Everything that's going to happen with, WhatsApp, that's also chat, but outbound agents is harder to do than inbound agents because you really need to be careful when the agent is talking to your customer versus an internal stakeholder. And then voice, Salesforce has invested a lot in voice agents. And I'm anxious to see how that plays out.
Yuri and Yoav, thank you so much for sharing those insights. I am really looking forward to see how the tribal platform will be evolving in the upcoming, I was about to say upcoming years, but it's in the upcoming months because we're going at a much faster pace. And I'm also looking forward to see your post-TDX prophecy about how the Agentforce platform will evolve. You'll see a lot of the things that you mentioned are part of the talk track in the upcoming 2 days. So thank you again for the past couple of minutes that we spent.
Thank you so much, Antoine.